So I've had a lot of people ask how to store the entirety of a conversation in HighLevel so that you can then use it either to send to a client or a sales rep at the end of the conversation once an appointment is booked, or potentially just storing that history to send to AI if you're not using something like Zappychat AI that remembers the entirety of the conversation. So I'm going to show you how I'd set that up really quickly, how we'd use it in our workflows, and also how to use it potentially outside of Zappychat's workflow. So first thing we're going to need is a custom field in which we can actually store the conversation. So head over to settings and to custom fields. And in here, we're going to add a new field. I select multi-line because the conversation is long. You're going to want to be able to expand that box. And here in the field name, let's just name it conversation for ease of use. And I'm going to drop it in my BookingBot folder. So that's the field that we are going to use. And so that means that the short code for filling that in is going to be the contact.conversation, and we're going to use that in our workflows to add to that as we go along. So if you're using the Zappychat workflows, we're going to just make a quick update to workflow 1 and workflow 2 in order to log those, and then an update to workflow 3 to send to the user, the sales rep, the client, whoever it is you want to send it to. And the same concepts here can be used if you are not using Zappychat. The same idea remains to log all inbound messages and all outbound messages while also retaining the previous conversation history. So what I'm going to do in this send message to robot workflow, since this is fired every time that a contact responds, what I'm going to do is just add a step here and move my face out of the way and search in here just to update contact field. For the field, I'm going to select our newly created conversation field. And what I'm going to do is actually start out by saying contact.conversation. So this is going to put the contents of this field back into this field. It's going to override it, what already exists with what already exists. But then I'm going to add on to it and say user : and then do message.body. Since this workflow is triggered by a lead responding, I'm going to drop in that message body. So essentially this is saying put in everything that already exists and then add in a new line that says user message body. So that way it adds on the message body from there. So I have that saved. So that just means that it is going to, every time a lead responds, it's going to add to that conversation field the response from the user and mark it as user. I use the term user because that's how ChatGPT approaches the person chatting with it. It's more referred to as a user rather than a lead or a contact, but you could call it whatever you want. You could even put in contact first name in there if you want to better specify that. As a matter of fact, that's probably a better way to do it. And so you can go and drop in contact first name. Now, this is the workflow that I have that sends off the reply to the lead. And so I'm going to do the same thing here where I'm going to update contact field, going to search for my conversation field. And similarly, I'm going to do contact.conversation. But now this is now the AI responding. So I'm going to say AI : and I'm going to put in the AI's response. Now, here's where it'd be a little different if you aren't using Zappychat. For Zappychat, we use a contact field called response. And so we're going to put in contact.response right in there. But if you aren't using Zappychat Snapshot, if you have a different field that your AI is dropping the response into, you can use that. Or if you are actually generating the response within the workflow, then just make sure this is after the step that generates that response and that you use the data from that in this field here. And so by doing this, it now means that every time the lead responds, it's going to take what's in the conversation and add user and their response. And every time the AI responds, it's going to take what's in the conversation field and add user and the AI's response. So those two things will just make sure that everything is properly logged. And so now if I go down to our stop robot appointment booked workflow that is triggered upon an appointment booked and say that I want to now send an internal notification, I'm just going to add an internal notification here. And let's just, for the sake of ease, do SMS. And I'm just going to say contact name, just booked an appointment here is a copy of their conversation. Obviously, you could put whatever copy you want to in here, but I'm just going to drop in contact.conversation, and that is going to send the entirety of that field over to whatever user I want to. So I'll just say all users here. And then once I save that, that makes it so the conversation field is logged and is sent over to the lead. So just the concept there is making sure you have a field to log everything, and you're always taking the contents of that field and adding to it. That way you can add to it and make it longer and longer rather than overriding each time. So give that a try if you're wanting to use it. It's certainly not necessary with Zappychat, but enough people have asked that I figured I would make this video and share it out to you.